Hey guys, it's Charlene. Today I'm going to show you 3 different ways to use your hot foil to create some stunning cards. The first card we're going to create is using stencils, and it's really pretty. I'm using the brand new Spark Joy Lily Bouquet kit from Altenew. This is a new kit and it comes out monthly, and it comes with the hot foil plate as well as stencils. So it's a really fun kit to try out. I've got a piece of A2 sized white cardstock, and then I've put down a piece of foil, and now I'm going to tape that hot foil plate directly on top. This is going to reduce the risk of any overfoiling or any skipping when we run it through the die cutting machine. Once everything's taped down, I can flip the entire thing over on top of my Glimmer machine. Now I've already preheated this, so all I have to do is set it on there, add the plate as well as the shim, and once the timer is done, I can run it through my die cutting machine. Through the magic of editing, you don't have to wait for the entire timer to go down. But I only run it through once. That's going to help to reduce any chances of overfoiling or any skipping. Then I can set it back in my machine, slide it in, and take off everything and pull this cardstock up. This plate is so gorgeous. Look at that, you guys. I love how this turned out. Now I'm going to use the layering stencils that came with the kit. I've been on kind of a kick with layering stencils. I love the Altenew packaging because it comes with directions as well as different fun color combinations. So I'm starting out here with my first stencil. I've got some Seafoam. This whole card's going to be in blues and teals and greens. It's going to look really pretty. Once I have the color down where I want it, I'm going to come back in with some Surf, which is a slightly darker teal, or aqua, whichever you'd like to call it, and I'm gonna add a little bit of shading. So I do that just with a really light hand towards the center of the petals. And then I'm coming in here with some Tidepool, and I'm gonna color the little side flowers with Tidepool. And then once I'm done with that, I'm gonna come in with Cadette, which is kind of a really nice medium blue. And I'm gonna color the smaller flowers that are on that bottom left corner. I did wanna add a little bit of shading, so I brought some Royal in, and I'm using a little detail brush to get the shading towards the center. For the leaves, I am coming in here with Aspen, which is a really gorgeous color. I really, really like this color. I'm going to color all the leaves with this, and then I'm going to come in with Sage and again add a little bit of shading. So all of my shading for the flowers and the leaves is pretty much at the base of the petals and the base of the leaves, or anywhere that it looks like it should be tucked under. So once I'm all done, I've got a paper towel here, and I'm just going to wipe off any excess ink that might be sitting on top of the foil. I am very careful when I do this because I don't want to accidentally kind of rub any ink onto the white areas of the cardstock. For my sentiment, I'm using a prior kit. It's the Craft Your Life project kit. You've probably seen me use this kit before in other videos. It's the Floral Acanthus kit. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but I cut out a couple of the Hugs dies as well as the shadow die for my sentiment and layered those up with liquid glue. So now I'm going to put the entire card together, and rather than using craft foam or any kind of foam tape, I decided that I wanted to glue a couple of layers of cardstock to the back of my foiled piece. This is going to give me a very small amount of dimension, less than the foam tape would, but enough that it's going to make it look more interesting than if I just glued this directly onto the card. Now I can glue this down, and I'm going to glue this to a really pretty piece of aqua teal. Someone's got to tell me the difference between those. I'll have to look it up so I can start using the right color term. I kind of use aqua and teal interchangeably if you haven't noticed. But I'm going to glue this down to an A2 size card base that I have prepared off camera. It's top folding, and I'm gluing that down, and then I can add my sentiment, and then I'm going to add a little bit of bling with some jewels. So this is a really simple card to put together, but it really has that wow factor with the foil and then the easy coloring with the shading. Oh, it's so fun. All right, for our second card, we are going to be creating a fun half and half card. This is really easy to do. So again, we're going to do some hot foiling. I'm just using some gold foil from Spellbinders, and I've used the same plate, and again, just wait for the timer to go down, run it through one time, and you should get really good results. Now you're going to see I did get a little tiny bit of overfoiling on this image in the bottom right hand corner, but it comes off really easily with an eraser. I just use either my adhesive eraser or I have one of those white erasers, lightly rub over it, comes right off. It's not an issue at all. So really pretty. Now here's the fun part. I'm using the Pinkfresh Studio Solid Hot Foil Plate. This is a must-have in my book if you're going to do any kind of foiling because it opens up a lot of different opportunities. All you do is you put down whatever you want to foil on top of that plate and put a piece of cardstock on there. You want the pretty side of the foil to touch the plate, or you could think about it, you want the boring side of the foil to touch the paper, whichever works for you. But once it's all heated up and the timer's done, you could run it through your machine. It might make it a little bit easier to run through your machine if you have that plate on your Glimmer at an angle, so you don't get as much jumping like I did there. But there, now we have an entire beautiful solid foiled image. Just make sure to take off that little bit of release paper that is on top of the foil. You don't want to leave that on there. Now what we're going to do is we are going to cut this solid piece in half. Now I'm going to find a reference point on that other piece where I have the outline foil, and then I'm going to look on the solid piece and I'm going to try and cut it right along that reference point. I'm not too worried if this is a perfectly straight cut because I'm going to trim the whole thing down so that way it is straight. We're not going to have any issues there. So you can see I'm going to tape that piece I cut directly on top of the other piece, get them nice and lined up. And I'm going to tuck that tape over the edges just so I can make sure it doesn't move around when it's in my die cutting machine. And then I am using just a standard rectangle die to cut down the entire thing. So that way I can make sure it is nice and straight on my card, no issues. And once it comes out, you can just glue this piece right onto your cardstock so that way it's lined up. Now you could glue the piece on before or after you do the die cutting. It's up to you. I generally prefer to do it after. That's just a personal preference. So I've got it nice and lined up, and then I can just commit and press down. And you do want to use a glue that is fairly liquidy when you are working with foil because you don't want to get any bumps or ridges underneath your foil because it will show up because it's so reflective. If you have a glue that's really tacky, you might want to use double-sided tape instead. So now here I have the Layered Geo Cover Die B. This is a fun die. I love this background die, but you don't always have to use it so that all of it's showing. And so I've got this and I'm just using it as an accent element in my card. So you're going to see I'm going to glue the whole thing onto my A2 size card base. I just went around dotting it with my glue at all of those little joint areas. To again add some dimension, I'm going to use some double-sided tape here. You could use this or liquid adhesive like I said. And I'm going to glue another piece of cardstock to the back of my foiled piece to add a little bit of dimension, not much, just enough that it's noticeable. This works especially well when you're working with a lighter weight paper. It's going to give your card a little bit more interest when you're looking at it. So I didn't quite get that on perfectly straight, which is totally fine. You can come along with scissors and trim the edges, no issue. But just to be safe, because on this next part, I did want to make sure and get it on there nice and straight, I did go ahead and pull out my Scor-Buddy, and I'm gonna put my piece right in the bottom corner of it, and then I'm gonna go ahead and put my foiled piece on top. So this is gonna look kind of funny, but you're gonna see I have it upside down on my Scor-Buddy because I want to tape this in the bottom right hand corner. So I just wanted to make sure my card was gonna open the correct way. So once that's on top, all I have to do is add my sentiment, which again is that hug sentiment from the Floral Acanthus kit, and that's it. Can you see how fun that little detail around the edge is with that cover plate die? Definitely something to try out. My next card is going to have a little bit of mixed media here. I'm coming in with the Halftone stencil. This is a really cool stencil. I use it a lot. You guys have seen it on a lot of my cards. I think it just adds a really nice, subtle, fun background element, especially if you do this in white. I wanted it to pop a little bit more, so I'm actually coming in here with some Picket Studios Jade Vine Paper Glaze. Oh, such a pretty color. But I'm going to cover the entire stencil, smooth it all out, and then when I remove the stencil, you can see I'm just grabbing my pokey tool here to help me hold the paper down so I don't have any issues. Now I can set that aside to completely dry. Once it was totally dry, I trimmed it down. I did that actually right through my die cutting machine, but you do want to make sure that it is completely dry before you do that, or you can use a paper trimmer. I'm gluing it directly to an A2 size card base, and then off camera, I used the leftover foil that I had from the first card and also the hot foil plate from Pinkfresh Studios, and I created another full sheet. But for this one, I trimmed it down really small. You don't always have to use the entire image, so keep that in mind. I wanted this pretty little kind of cross section of the bouquet on my card. So I've put some double-sided tape on there and I'm taping it directly on there. And then again, I'm using the hug sentiment, but this time I did not use the shadow layer. I'm just using the hugs part. And oh, look at all that shine, and you have the shine from the paper glaze. So pretty. All right, guys, I hope you picked up some fun tips and tricks today. Please be sure to like and subscribe, as well as hit that notification bell so that I can continue bringing you more crafty content in the future. Until next time, happy crafting.